Welcome back to another episode of Fox West Texas Sports Unscripted. I'm your host, Casey Buscher, now joined by KVUE sports reporter Jake Garcia. Jake, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yes. So, Jake, whenever I'm looking at your Twitter page in quarantine, it seems like you're doing a lot of these shelter in place. Is that what it is? Shelter in shape packages.
That's correct. Yes.
How did you come up with that?
It was actually super interesting. I woke up one morning knowing that I needed to start to really be creative to find story ideas, and woke up one morning with a group text that was started with my dad, my uncle, and my sister, and they were like, "Hey, today I'm going to see how long it takes me to do 100 burpees." And I was like, "That sounds terrible, but I'll do it." And as I start to get ready to do these 100 burpees, I see my camera equipment in the corner, and I'm like, I should film this, because what else am I going to be doing today other than a workout? And so I was like, you know what? I should make this a segment. And it started off as a nightly segment. It's kind of turned into a once a week type thing. But I guess the inspiration behind it was just to say, look, we're all kind of stuck inside right now. That doesn't mean that you can't continue to stay active and fit and healthy. And I guess the big takeaway that I want people to have from it is you don't have to be doing CrossFit workouts or running 15 miles. Just do something to stimulate your mind, stimulate your body, to make sure that we're not all slowly going crazy while the shelter-in-place order is in effect.
Yeah, and for you as a sports reporter, with there being no sports, this is something interesting that you've come up with. How has this time been over the last few months, just trying to be creative with story ideas and, trying to pitch probably sports stories, but also helping out in news, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I don't want to minimize just how much I miss sports, because I do, and I love going to games, and I love covering practices and all the things that come with actual sports. But at the same time, part of the reason why I picked this job is I always considered myself someone who doesn't need a game to tell a good story. Sports exists in many different areas of life. And so I always considered myself a storyteller before a sports reporter. And so that was something that I just really tried to tap into when this all started, when I was brainstorming ideas of how the heck I was going to get through this time without sports, while also showing that there are still people doing athletic things and still stories that are worth telling in this time. So I'm not going to say that it hasn't been hard or difficult or that I wish things would go back to normal, because I do, but I think it's forced a lot of people to be their most creative versions of themselves and really think outside the box in terms of how are we going to get through this when there aren't games being played.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, and it's so important to focus more on storytelling rather than just the box score when it comes to being a sports reporter. But okay, so a typical day on the job. Most people, see your position and they're like, okay, wow, really glamorous. He's on TV all the time. He gets to cover the Longhorns. He gets to cover College Game Day, all the cool stuff, right? But what's a typical day on the job that people may not realize or know about?
Yeah, and I'm assuming you're talking about pre-coronavirus.
Yes, pre-coronavirus.
Right? Well, I guess it depends what time of the season it is. In the heart of football season, every single day there is something Longhorns related that we're doing, whether it be a Tom Herman press conference or player availability on Tuesday, coordinator availability on Wednesday. So I guess the day starts even before I wake up. It starts the night before when I start doing all my prep when it comes to the questions that I hope to have answered that day, the angle that I'm going into each day with. And then from there, it's going to these availabilities, going on campus, talking to players, talking to coaches, and then from there, getting my questions answered and putting together a story that I think is most valuable for that day. It's not glamorous, like you said. On the surface, it definitely is, because I'm covering a major Division I program that people here treat like their professional sports team, and I love every second of it. With that being said, I am my own cameraman, I'm my own editor, I'm my own writer, voicer, anchor. So it's really a one-man band type of ordeal, and I think a lot of people are surprised when I tell them that, especially, I guess, when I do a story that maybe it's on someone who hasn't had that level of media exposure before, and they're like, oh, it's just you? I was like, yeah, I do everything. I'm the one who's shooting the video. I'm the one who's asking the questions. But honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think just because I have gone the past 3, 4, 5 years doing it all myself, if I had someone doing it for me, I would be like, no, I want it done this way. Here, give me the camera, or let me edit that piece of video.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. And so let's talk about a little bit about your journey. So you went to school at Arizona State, started in Oregon in your first market job, and then you come to Austin. What's the journey been like, and what are your biggest takeaways just along the way to get to this point in Austin?
The journey's been super rewarding. My senior year of college was faced with a question that has really defined, I guess, the past 3, 4 years of my career, and that's, was I going to go into TV sports reporting, or was I going to do baseball play-by-play? So minor league type stuff, media relations, being, I guess, the media head for a minor league baseball team. And I decided that, I had just spent 4 years at Arizona State learning a curriculum that was designed to teach me how to be a TV sports reporter. And while I thought I was pretty good at baseball play-by-play, I never had actually gotten formal education or actual validation that, yeah, you are pretty good. Whereas for TV sports reporting, I had gotten that validation. And I was like, it makes no sense to just disregard the past 4 years of my education and do something that I think I'm good at, but I don't know for sure. So I chose TV sports reporting, and I've loved every second of it. I think that there is so much to learn from a small market experience. And a lot of people that scares them away from the job initially. They don't want to go to a part of the country that no one's ever heard of before. They don't want to be covering high school and really small college level sports. And I think if you can take a step back from that and realize that, like, this is a necessary step that you have to take in order to reach covering a D1 team, covering a professional sports team in the capacity that I want to. Because I for sure could have been like a blogger or something like that. And I think there's definitely a space for that. But, I wanted to be on camera. I wanted to be a television reporter. And the way to get there is to put in the time in a small market. And I understand that, there's a financial situation as well that maybe some people can't afford to take that route initially, because, like we mentioned, the jobs aren't glamorous. They're not super high paying. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if that's something that you're able to do, for me, it was such a rewarding experience, because I developed relationships with people in Southern Oregon that made me a better storyteller and forced me to not so much tell a story about who won or lost the game, but tell a story about the emotions of the people in the game or behind whatever it is that I just witnessed. Yeah. So that was the biggest thing that I learned in Oregon, and I'm trying my best to carry it over in Austin.
So what were some of the key things that you learned in Oregon? While it probably wasn't an easy time, you're in the smaller market, trying to get creative with stories because there isn't a team like the Texas Longhorns there that just you're covering every single day. What were some of those key takeaways that you still use in Austin today?
I think the first one was learning how to develop relationships with people who then you can go back to as sources. That's really something, in my opinion, that isn't taught super well in college, just because they have a million other different things to teach you. So I came into that job knowing how to shoot video, how to edit video, how to write. And while I got better and better at each of those things the longer I did it. Something that I had really never thought of before was, how am I going to be one of the faces of a sports department that every single day is responsible for putting out stories or breaking news or reacting to news. When something major happens, say like an iconic figure in that sports community passes away, how am I going to be able to react quickly enough to get the people that I need to talk to, having them trust me as someone who is going to be empathetic to the situation, and also get out the message that we're trying to convey. So I think just learning how to really tap into those pool of resources and connections was something that was super important. It's harder to do in a bigger market like Texas, or like Austin rather, and a huge entity that is the Longhorns, because they're closed off. They want the message coming out of there to be all from the University of Texas, and I understand it. I really do. So how can I carve out a space for myself that I guess it's a small market approach in a bigger market, and it's all designed to get those stories out, react to news, develop sources so that we're the ones breaking news.
So for you, when you left college, I'm sure you had this maybe a dream that you ultimately wanted to. What was the dream that you kind of like wanted long-term in your career?
When I was a little kid, I always wanted to anchor SportsCenter. That was my goal. I think it was probably everyone's goal. By the time I graduated college, I was so invested in baseball that I thought, I wanted my own show on MLB Network, or I wanted to host a studio show about baseball on Fox Sports or whatever. And honestly, now that long-term dream kind of changes every single day. Some days I wake up and I'm like, I still want to be a SportsCenter anchor. Other days I'm like, well, maybe my job doesn't exactly exist yet, just because the media landscape always changes so rapidly. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I'm just trying to be as best as I can every single day, and hopefully that continues to take me to bigger markets and hopefully one day a network. But what that looks like long term, I don't really know right now.
But for you in this market, it's a bigger market. You're enjoying it. How do you stay focused on the day-to-day grind of what you have to do, getting stories, being in Austin, soaking up that market that you're in right now, but also staying driven to continue growing within the industry down the line?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance that you have to walk. And my strategy for the past few years or so has been, okay, just put your head down for a year and a half, and pour all of your energy and your attention and your focus into being the best at this job as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. And then you'll get noticed. And then you can start sending out your tape to other news directors, stuff like that. For me, I've never been super into connections in terms of like elevating yourself within the industry. They're wildly important, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I think my biggest focus has always been put your head down, do the job to the best of your abilities, and connections will come. And so far they have. I mean, obviously there's still room for improvement. I'd like to get better in that aspect, but it's an approach that hasn't let me down at this point.
I like that a lot. And for students that are just now graduating in May or December, kind of struggling to find a job right now, especially that want to go into the sports industry when there's no sports and it's a little bit scary. So what are some pieces of advice that you would give to them if you were in their shoes right now trying to find a job in the industry?
First of all, keep your head up and stay strong, because this is unprecedented. This is something that I didn't have to deal with. So I don't even know if I'm qualified to speak on this, just because as I try and put myself in their shoes, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to go through something like this. I know for a fact that I probably wouldn't have been hired as a sports reporter in Market 136 out of college